One history: the man who knocked 3 times. Jackson had lived in the old farmhouse for just over a year. He bought it cheap, too cheap, but he liked the quiet. After 10 years in the army, silence was something he thought he could handle. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. He fixed the roof, replaced the doors, and built himself a small fire pit out back. The place creaked like bones in the wind, but he didn't mind. He'd slept through worse. Until the knocking started. It was a Tuesday night, just after 3:17 a.m., when 3 slow knocks echoed through the hallway. Knock, knock, knock. He woke instantly, instinct. He reached for the flashlight, scanned the front door. Nothing. He stepped outside. Cold air, no cars, no wind. Only the sound of the old oak tree creaking by the fence. No one there. He told himself it was the wood expanding. Houses did that. But when morning came, something made his blood run cold. On the bark of the oak tree were 3 fresh handprints, smeared deep into the moss. That night it happened again. Same time. Same 3 knocks. Jackson didn't open the door this time. He sat on the couch with his gun resting on his knee, listening. The knocks came slower, as if whoever, or whatever, was outside knew he was awake. He shouted, "Who's there?" No answer. Just silence. Then the faint sound of someone walking away through the leaves. When dawn came, he found something new, muddy footprints leading from the porch to the tree. But halfway across the yard, they simply stopped, as if the person had vanished mid-step. That day, Jackson drove into town to ask his neighbor, an old man named Earl, about the house. Earl stared at him for a long moment, then said quietly, "You bought the Miller place, didn't you?" Jackson nodded. "Yeah. Why?" Earl sighed. "Just don't open the door after midnight. Not even if it's someone you know." Jackson spent the next evening cleaning his rifle. He didn't believe in ghosts, but he did believe in danger. The air grew colder as night fell, and by habit he checked the clock. 3:10 a.m. He waited, counting the seconds, eyes on the front door. At 3:17 the first knock came. Knock. He raised the rifle. Knock. His breath turned to fog. Knock. Silence. He shouted again, "Who's out there?" From the other side of the door came a single word, soft and hoarse. "Jackson." He froze. The voice was familiar, low, shaky, broken by distance. He hadn't heard it in months. It was his brother's voice. But his brother, Kyle, had died last year. The rifle slipped slightly in his grip. "Kyle?" No response. Then footsteps, slow and uneven, retreating across the porch. He tore the door open and stepped into the night. The yard was empty. The moon was pale, washing the field in silver. But there, by the oak tree, something hung from the lowest branch. A length of twine tied to a dog tag. His brother's. He stood there for a long time, staring, the cold crawling under his skin. When dawn finally came, the handprints on the oak were deeper, pressed into the bark as though done by someone clawing to get in. He buried the tag under a stone behind the house and spent the rest of the day sitting by the window watching the road. By sunset, he'd almost convinced himself it was all coincidence, grief playing tricks. But at midnight he noticed something new. The 3 knocks weren't coming from the front door anymore. They were coming from inside the walls. Jackson pressed his ear to the wall. The sound was faint but real, 3 slow knocks from somewhere inside the wooden frame. He tore at the wallpaper with his knife, expecting pipes, wiring, something that made sense. But behind the plaster he found handprints, black with soot, pressed deep into the wood. Then came the whisper, so close it felt like it was inside his head. "You buried me wrong." He stumbled back, breath shaking. "Who's there?" Silence. Then again, knock, knock, knock. From the floor this time. He grabbed a crowbar and pried up the old boards. Dust and cold air poured out. Beneath the floor was a hollow space, not a crawl space but a sealed compartment. And inside it, a small box wrapped in army cloth. He pulled it out with trembling hands, unwrapped it, and froze. Inside were 2 items, a folded photo of him and Kyle in uniform and a rusted revolver. Underneath, in faded marker, 3 words were written on the cloth. "I was first." He didn't remember writing it, but the handwriting was his own. The floor beneath him creaked, one long drawn-out groan, and the air turned colder. From the hallway came a new sound, boots dragging slowly across the wood, moving closer. He aimed the rifle. Stop. The steps stopped just outside the doorway. For a long moment, nothing. Then 3 soft knocks against the wall. He fired. The shot shattered the silence. Dust and splinters flew. But when the smoke cleared, there was no one there. Only a dark stain on the wall, shaped like a hand. The next morning, Earl came to check on him. The door was open, the gun cold on the floor. Jackson was gone. On the oak tree outside, the handprints had multiplied, dozens of them now, all pressed deep into the bark. And at 3:17 a.m., the front door knocked 3 times. To history, the cabin on Black Hollow Road. David had driven 3 hours up into the mountains for peace. No phone signal, no neighbors, just a rented wooden cabin surrounded by pine trees and silence. He was a journalist, and all he wanted was to finish a long-delayed article about missing hikers in the region. The cabin was old but clean. A small fireplace, a single bedroom, and a handwritten note from the owner. Keep the door locked after sundown. The forest gets loud. He smiled at the dramatics. Local superstition, good for headlines. By dusk, fog rolled in thick enough to hide the road. He lit a fire and opened his laptop, but the only sound was wind brushing the windows. Around midnight, a faint noise came from outside. Footsteps. He froze, listening. They circled the cabin once, crunching through dead leaves. Then stopped directly behind the door. "Hello?" he called. No answer. He opened the door and shined his flashlight into the mist. Nothing. Just trees, their branches heavy with fog. As he turned to go back inside, something caught his eye. A small notebook lying on the porch, soaked and warped. The first page was dated 5 years earlier. Cabin tenant, week 1, it's still out there. He skimmed the next entry. It walks only when you do. If you stop, it stops. David looked up. The forest was silent again. Then, behind him, a soft crack like a branch breaking under weight. He turned slowly, flashlight trembling. No wind now. No insects. Just the sound of something breathing in rhythm with him. A few steps away in the fog, David slammed the door shut and dropped the beam of light. The breathing outside stopped instantly. He waited, counting in his head. 10 seconds. 20. Silence. When he dared to peek through the window, the fog was thicker now, almost solid, like wet cotton pressing against the glass. The notebook lay open on the table. He read further. I tried to leave. Every time I stepped off the porch, the footsteps came closer. It wants me to walk. He flipped to the last written page. If you hear it mimic your steps, don't run. It doesn't like running. His pulse hammered. Outside, the crunch of leaves began again. One step, one breath later, another step, matching his heartbeat exactly. He sat down, gripping the flashlight like a weapon. When the sound reached the wall by his chair, it stopped. Then came a knock, soft, deliberate, exactly 3 times. He whispered, "Who's there?" No reply. Only a slow scrape along the wood, moving toward the window. He aimed the light through the glass. The fog shimmered, parting just enough to reveal a shape standing a few feet away, tall, narrow, like a man with his head bent sideways. But it wasn't facing the cabin. It was facing away. David stepped back. The shape began to move, one careful step at a time, circling the house again. Every time he turned, it turned too, always keeping its back to him. He pressed himself against the door, breathing shallow. When the fire flickered out, he realized the forest outside had gone completely silent. Then, from the porch, a sound like someone whispering through their teeth. Don't stop walking. David didn't sleep that night. He sat by the dying fire, gripping his flashlight, watching the thin curtain of fog shimmer beyond the window. The whisper repeated every few minutes, closer each time. At dawn, he stepped outside. The forest looked normal again, birds calling, sun filtering through pines. No footprints in the mud, no sign of anyone nearby. For a moment, he almost believed he'd imagined it. He packed his bag ready to leave, but when he went to start his car, he froze. The notebook was lying on the driver's seat, dry, clean, and open to a new page. You stopped. The words were fresh, the ink still wet. He looked up and saw them. Footprints. Starting from the edge of the trees and ending right at his car door. Deep, perfect prints, all identical, pointing toward him. David backed away slowly. The air grew colder, heavy with the same sound as last night. Footsteps pacing the edge of the clearing. Only now they were in broad daylight. He tried to run. The sound followed him. Every step, every breath, mimicking him perfectly. He sprinted toward the road, lungs burning, and then silence. When he turned around, the cabin was gone. Only forest. He kept walking, shouting, trying to find the trail. Every direction looked the same. Then came a soft rustle behind him. He turned and saw himself. Standing a few feet away, same clothes, same face, same terrified stare. The double smiled faintly, tilted its head, and whispered, "Don't stop walking." The next hiker found David's car 3 days later. The doors were open, the keys still inside. On the seat, a notebook waited, the same message on its last page. Tenant, week 1, it's still out there. 3. History: the house that remembers. Michael hadn't set foot in his childhood home for 23 years. After his father's funeral, the lawyer insisted he take a final look before selling it. Old place like that, the man said. You never know what's still inside. The house stood at the edge of town, 3 stories tall, its roof sagging like tired shoulders. When Michael opened the door, the smell hit him first. Old wood dust, something damp and faintly sweet. Everything looked smaller than he remembered, but exactly the same. The same crooked picture on the wall, the same scratch marks on the stairs where his father's cane used to catch. He wandered through each room, feeling the air shift. The lights flickered as if the place had been waiting. In the hallway hung the same mirror from his childhood, tall, with a warped glass that made his reflection ripple slightly. As a boy, he'd been afraid of it. His father used to cover it with a blanket at night. He peeled back the cloth now, staring at his older face. For a second, the reflection didn't move. Then it smiled, half a second too late. Michael stumbled back. The lights buzzed, dimmed, then steadied again. The reflection was normal now, his own tired expression staring back. He told himself it was exhaustion, grief, and the smell of the place playing tricks. Still, when night came, he locked every door. Around midnight, he woke to faint footsteps above him, slow, dragging. The ceiling creaked. He listened for a moment, heart pounding, and whispered, "Hello?" The steps stopped. Then, from the far end of the hall, came a voice he hadn't heard since he was a child, low, stern, unmistakable. "Go back to your room, Michael." Michael froze. His father's voice had been so clear that for a heartbeat he almost obeyed, almost turned toward his childhood bedroom. But then the silence came. Heavy. Watching. He forced himself up, grabbed a candle from the table, and started down the hall. The old floorboards complained under his weight. Every step echoed twice, once from his foot and once from somewhere above. He reached the staircase and looked up. The landing was dark. Only a faint glow leaked from under the attic door, a place that had been locked since his mother's death. He climbed, whispering, "Dad?" The doorknob was cold. When he touched it, the candle flame bent sharply as if the air was breathing against him. He pushed the door open. The attic smelled of dust and rain. Boxes lined the walls, each labeled with dates he didn't recognize. He brushed one off. 1989, basement. Another, 1993, kitchen. And then a third, 2002, Michael. He froze. He hadn't lived here since 2002. Inside the box was an old tape recorder, his childhood drawings, and a small envelope with his name written in his father's handwriting. The message inside read, "If the rooms start moving, leave. The house is remembering again." He frowned, whispering to himself, "What does that even mean?" Then he noticed the candlelight flickering across the floorboards. The shadow of the door, his shadow, was pointing the wrong way. He turned around. The staircase was gone. In its place stood a hallway he didn't recognize, lined with the same wallpaper from his old bedroom, the one that had been torn down years ago. At the end of it, a single door creaked open by itself. And from the darkness beyond, his father's voice whispered softly, "You shouldn't have come back." Michael gripped the candle so hard the wax bent under his fingers. The hallway in front of him stretched impossibly long, fading into a flickering orange light. He called out again, voice shaking, "Dad?" No answer. Just the same slow creaking sound, like wood bending under invisible weight. He stepped forward. The floor felt wrong, too soft, like it was breathing under his shoes. When he passed the first doorway, the wallpaper changed. Old family photos appeared on the walls, except in each one he was missing. Only his father and mother smiled back, hands clasped around empty space. He whispered, "What are you showing me?" The house answered. The walls trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. One of the pictures twisted on its nail and fell. Behind it, written directly on the plaster, were 4 words in smeared ink. "You never left, Michael." He turned and ran. The hallway kept changing, the carpet from his teenage room under his feet, then the wooden floor from the kitchen, then tiles from the bathroom. Every step carried him deeper into the house's memory. When he stopped, he was standing in the living room, but it looked as it had decades ago. His father sat in the old chair by the fireplace, staring into the flames. "Dad," he whispered. The man turned his head slowly. His face was the same, but his eyes were wrong, glassy, distant, as if reflecting someone else's light. "You were supposed to stay asleep," the voice said, not quite matching the movement of his lips. The candle went out. Michael groped in the dark, heart hammering. When the lights flickered back on, the room was empty again. Only his own reflection stared back from the window, except it was still sitting in the chair. By morning, the realtor found the house unlocked. Michael's car was outside, keys still in the ignition. Inside, every door led to the same place, a narrow hallway that ended with a single mirror. In its glass stood a man holding a candle, forever whispering, "You shouldn't have come back."